Today we're going to be looking at function form and graphing, and this is part of topic 2, linear function. But first we're going to be looking at this right here, how to write in function form or function rule. Function form, function notation, function rule is all the same thing. We're going to be using explicit formula right here, and we're going to change it into slope-intercept form. Now we're going to be looking at DSR, which means to distribute, simplify, and replace. So when we look at this first one right here, example A, you see the first thing we're going to do is distribute. And when we distribute, we come up with a sub n equals 5 minus 3n plus 3. We're going to rewrite it, and we're going to simplify. So now when you rewrite and simplify, you have a sub n equals negative 3n, and this will give you plus 8. Now, the only thing you have to do at this point is just to replace the a sub n with f of n, or if you wanted to replace it with f of x, you can. The only thing you have to make sure is that this x right here matches this x. This n right here matches this n. This right here is the same thing as saying y equals negative 3x plus 8. So the y is the same thing as f of x, f of n. It's the same thing. Now, I've already worked example B for you also. On example B, we're going to be distribute first. So you're going to say in negative 5 times n and negative 5 times negative 1. Now this, whether you use the write the common difference at the end or at the beginning, it does not matter. You're still going to distribute. So when you distribute this one right here, you will see the negative 5 times n is negative 5n. Negative 5 times the negative 1 is a positive 5. So you have a negative 5n plus 13 right here. Then, after we simplify it, we are going to replace it. Replace f of n, a of n to f of n right here. So you have f of n equals negative 5n plus 13, or you can say f of x equals to negative 5x plus 13. This right here is the same thing as saying y equals negative 5n plus 13. Now in this first one, I'm going to work the first one with you, and then you're going to work the second one by yourself. Now in this one, you're still going to use distributive property, and I've already gone through here and distribute the DSR right here. And when you distribute the 15, the common difference to each one of these, you will come up with your 15n plus 50 minus 15, and when you replace it, it will give you f of n equals 15n plus 35, or f of x equals 15n plus 35. Now, we're going to take this right here and make a t-chart right here. We're going to start with 0 and go through 15. So when we use a t-chart, what we have to do is simply just take it and put it in our substitute. Put it in your graphing calculator. I'm going to turn this on, and I'm going to clear it. So I'm going to take this 15n. I'm going to say 15 times your n, which is 0, plus 35. And you will see that it is 35. Now I'm going to cursor back up here and hit enter. And I'm going to cursor back and type directly over the 0. Do not delete it. Just simply type over top of it, and it will give you 50. I'm going to do this to each one of these. I'm going to cursor back, type directly over with a 2, and come up with a 65. Go back, cursor backwards, and you see you have a 3 this time, and it will give you 80. You're going to keep going through each one of these over and over again. So this time I'm going to substitute in a 4, and it gives me a 95. When I take this and cursor back and substitute in a 5 in place of the 4 this time, it will give me 110. So now I have each one of my values right here. So I'm going to take this right here, and I'm going to come up with my terms for my intervals for my graph right here. And you see the intervals, which are your term positions: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've gone ahead and written it out through 10, and I see that I need to go up to 110. So I'm going to count by tens right here, and I'm going to plot these points: 0 and 35, 1 and 50, 2 at 65, 3 at 80, 4 is at 95, and I did not plot the fifth one, but that's okay. Now, when I look at this graph right here, I see it is a linear function. And when you look at linear and look at the word linear, it has the word line. This is a straight line, and it has the same common difference, which is your same thing as your slope. So it is a straight line. It has the same common difference all the way through. It is a constant difference right here. So your common difference is 15, or we can say the 15 is also the slope. When I look at the y-intercept right here, this is where you actually began. You began at 0, 35, which is what you have right here. So when you write the y-intercept, your 0 is going to be in the x place and the 35 is in the y. The slope is 15. So it is linear function. It's a straight line. It has the same common difference of 15. And you can write it either way. Make sure though that when you are writing this and you don't do like what I just did, you will take this right here. This has to be the same. If you have an X right here, it has to be same right here. If you have an N right here, it has to be an N right here. Now, I want you to put me on pause, and I want you to work number 2. Now, look at number 2. Check your number 2 against mine. So we're going to use the DSR distribute. Simplify, replace. I have already multiplied all the way through with my common difference of a -3, and I come up with a -3 plus 3. When I simplify it, I come up with a -3n plus 18, and then I'm going to replace the beginning right here. A sub n is f of n, or if you put it f of x, it's the same thing. Just make sure you change this to an x. Now, when I rewrite this in slope-intercept form, this y is the same thing as f of n or f of x. So when I look at this and come up with my term positions, right here 0 through 10 or 0 through 5, I see that I'm going to substitute each one of these numbers in place of the 0 right here, just like what we did a while ago. We're going to take this right here and we're going to say -3 parentheses 0 parentheses plus 18, and that will give me, oops, let me start again. This should be plus 18. Let's try this again. Yeah, there it took that, plus 18, and it gives me 18. Now I can do this over and over again, but there's also another way. So what I'm going to do is go to y equals right here. I'm going to type in this first one, or the only thing that we can use in this y equals is the x, so I'm going to type in this one. So I'm going to put in a -3, and I'm going to use this key right here for my x, plus 18. So this time I'm going to go to second and graph. Right here before we go ahead, look at this x. We do not go ahead and substitute 0 through 5 in here because this x will stand for any term we're looking for. So I'm going to go to my table. I'm going to go to second and graph. And this time you see that I can cursor up and down, but we want to have 0. So 0 is 18, 1 is 15, 2 is 12, 3 is 9, 4 is 6, 5 is 3. So I've already gone ahead and written this out right here, and notice that this right here, this is your y-intercept. So y-intercept, you have to have a 0 in the x place, and then you see that you started at 18. This is a decreasing linear function right here because you're going downhill, so it is a negative slope. -3 is the slope. This is a straight line. You see that it has the same common difference of a -3, which is your slope. So your slope is a -3, the y-intercept is 0, 18. Now, look at number 3. Number 3, we're going to do the same way, except this time the difference is you are given the first term and you have to find the common difference. Whereas this one, it was already written in explicit form. This time you're going to have to write it in explicit form or explicit rule. So when using explicit formula. So when I go back, I'm going to very quickly just use my calculator, and I'm going to come up with my, I'm going to turn this off and turn it back on. So I'm going to come up with my common difference. So I'm going to start the back, go backwards. 16 minus 12, you see, is 4. 12 minus 8 is also 4, but I'm going to go all the way through there, make sure that this is correct. 8 minus 4 will also give me 4. So my common difference is 4 right here. Now, when I look at this right here, I'm going to write it in the explicit formula right here. And when I distribute, I will come up with this answer right here. And then when I simplify, I will come up with this answer right here. A sub n equals 4n plus 0. And notice when we rewrite it, it will be f of n equals 4x, or f of x equals 4x, or f of n equals 4n. This right here is the same thing as saying y equals to 4x. We do not have to write the 0 at the end, but the y-intercept is at 0, 0. This is a positive slope. Now I can substitute each one of these in place of the x. 4 times 0 is 0. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 5 is 20. I can also put it in, go to y equals, clear this out, and put in 4 and then x, and again go to second and graph. And you see that here are all the terms, it's the same as this. So I'm going to, since we're going to 20, I have 10, this is 10 blocks high, so I can say 20 divided by 10, and that will give me 2. And so that's what I'm going to count by right here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and it keeps on going to 20. Now when I graph this, I see that my y-intercept is at 0, 0. Then I'm going to plot the points 1, 4, 2, 8, 3, 12, and I'm going to keep on going. Notice that this is a linear function. This is a straight line. It has the same common difference of 4. This is a positive slope. Now, I want you to go ahead and work number 4. Put me on pause when you do this. Now, let's look at number 4. Check your answer against mine. So I'm going to look at this, and when I go and put in 44 minus 30, 30 minus 16, I get the common difference of 14. So I'm going to use my first term right here, 16. I'm going to put it in this formula right here, this explicit formula. So when I write it, it's going to look like this. So now we're going to distribute. We're going to say 14 times the n and 14 times the negative 1. I will come up with this answer. Now we're going to simplify this, because I have to say 16 minus 14, and that's where the 2 comes from. Bring down the 14 in. Now I'm going to replace. So we distribute, simplify, replace. So now we're going to replace the a sub n with f of n, or you can write it f of x equals 14x plus 2. Now remember, this f of n, f of x is the same thing as saying y. My slope is 14 because that is my common difference. Your common difference right here is 14. I can also look at this and say it's 14. I'm looking for the x or the n right here. This is 14. My y-intercept is at 0, which is 0, 0, 0, 2. So I'm going to type this in. Now I can substitute in 0 in place of the x right here, 14 times 0 plus 2, and get 2. I can also take this, go to y equals, clear this off, and put in 14, and the only letter that we can use right here is x. 14x plus 2. Go to second and graph, and here are all my terms right here. So here's my answers. I'm going to plot my points, and this time I see that, well, I've got to go up to 72, so I'm going to count by tens, and I'm going to plot each one of these out right here. 0, 2, 116, and I'm going to keep going. Notice that this is a linear function. It is a straight line. This is it has the same common difference of 14, which is the same thing as slope. So I can go through here and plot each one of these out, and then identify my y-intercept, which is 0, 2. My slope is 14. Now let's go on to number 5. Number 5 is just like what we've been doing, except that this time they're giving you the first term and the common difference. Remember, the common difference right here is your slope. So when I substitute this right here into this formula right here, I will come up with a sub n equals 2 plus parentheses n minus 1 parentheses parentheses 8 parentheses. So this is, now we're going to distribute. I will come up with this answer when we distribute. Then we're going to simplify it. Remember, take this and whatever the sign is directly in front of the 8, whether it's positive or negative, you're going to bring it down here. If it's positive, you don't have to put a plus in front of it. But if it's a negative, you will. Now, I'm going to simplify this, and I will come up with a sub n equals 8n minus 6. And then I'm going to replace the a sub n with f of n or f of x. And just like before, if you come up with this right here, you will make sure that you have to have this right here has to be the same letter. So when I look at this right here, I see that I have f of x equals 8x minus 6. So now I'm going to take this and I can go to y equals, come up with my answers very quickly. So I'm going to clear this. I'm going to put in 8x minus 6. Go to second and graph. And here's all of my answers right here. So this one had the y-intercept is at 0, negative 6. So when I put 0, negative 6, I go down below this line. So I'm still, when you're counting this, and I've got to go up to 34. So I thought, well, I'm going to count by 5s. So if you start off counting by 5s above this x-axis, down below the the x-axis, you also have to count by 5s, except they're going to be in negatives. So this is 5, 10. This is a negative 5, negative 10. So we're going to go down here to 0, negative 6, and then 1, 2, 2, 10, 3, 18, and keep on going. So when you plot your points, you see this is a linear function. It is a straight line, and it does have a common difference of 8. So the slope is 8, and the y-intercept is at 0, negative 6. So when I write this, I have 0, negative 6, and then my slope is 8. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to put me on pause, and I want you to work number 6 by yourself. Now, let's check your number 6 against mine. So when you look at this right here, you see that when I'm looking at this right here, you see that when we take the a sub 1 is 7 and the d equals to 3 and substitute it into this formula right here, you will come up with this explicit formula right here. A sub n equals 7 plus parentheses n minus 1 parentheses with the 3. So when I look at this right here, I'm going to go through here and I'm going to distribute. DSR, remember, distribute, simplify, replace. So when I simplify this, 7 minus 3 will give me 4. Now I'm going to replace the a sub n equals f of n equals 3n plus 4, or f of x equals to 3x plus 4. Remember, the f of n, f of x is the same thing as saying y right here. And if I were to take this and write it in slope-intercept form, which is this formula right here, I will see that I have y equals to 3x plus 4. The slope is 3, the same as right here. The y-intercept is at 4, which is 0, 4. It's the same thing as right here. So all three of these are the same thing. So now I see that when I graph these, and when I have to come up with my answers, my points, I can put this one at a time in the regular part of the calculator, or I can go here and put in 3x plus 4, go to second and graph. Here's my answers right here, 4, 7, 10, 13, 16, and 19, same as right here. I need to go up to 20, and I see I have 20 units block high or 10 blocks high. So I'd say 20 divided by 2, and that 20 divided by 10, and that will give me 2. So I'm going to count by 2's all the way up here. And when I plot my points, I have 0, 4, 1, 7, 2, 10, and I keep on going. I see this is a linear function. It is a straight line. It does have a common difference of 3 right here.